Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Simeon Morrow Public Speaking and Presentations and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I will now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Tonight, our featured guest is Professor Niels Muus, Director of the Opera Master Program at the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna and co-director of the Vienna Philharmonic's Mozart Project. Niels is joined by Akiko Nakajima, a soprano and professor of voice at the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna, and Riza Matsushima, a soprano and voice and opera student of both Niels and Akiko at the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna.
Every living thing must have a purpose on this earth. Each king or queen, each flea or fly, every single being from the instant of its birth must seek its task, must ask its why. The wildflowers grow in throngs on the field, profuse, yes, but useless, or so we've heard.
Or so we've heard.
But this can't be so, for wildflowers yield sweet food for the bee and the hummingbird. A rhyme and a reason, that's what we all must have. Do you have a rhyme and a reason?
Niels, welcome. Niels is having a problem with his microphone. I asked him to turn it off with the fear that this might happen.
So now I'm
Hi,
here.
Niels. Welcome.
As you know, all these modern things are not my strong side. Yes, I also want to say welcome to all friends who are watching this program tonight. And of course, now it's about me. We had to start with this very funny old movie that is The Song of Norway, a big Hollywood production that was shot in the end of the 60s with a wonderful Florence Henderson. And if, of course, you couldn't recognize me, but I was a little not so slim boy in a brown costume.
Niels, so tell us about what you do today, what's your career as a conductor, how you got interested in music. So you told me before it all started with that movie.
Yes, of course. This is a movie about the Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg, and it was a big Broadway show that was made into a movie. And because of that movie, I was became very interested in playing piano and, of course, Greek music. And that led to me studying piano at the conservatory in Denmark, and later coming from a family where singing was present, and my studies and my long time stayings in Italy, I became very interested in opera. Already around the age of 16, 17, when I went to Italy and lived there. And since then, opera has been my life.
So before we go on to another video of you performing yourself, tell us a little bit about your youth and how you became involved in that production. Had you been singing before? Was it because you were a great voice talent that you were casted for that role, or how did that happen?
No, we were singing a chorus in Aarhus in Denmark, and we were picked out very often to participate in the local opera production. And also when this big Hollywood company came to Aarhus, we were in an audition, and then we were picked out. And it was for these things, I want to show this because it is so interesting in our life and in our businesses. Also now when I sit here in Vienna and see all my students here, how different backgrounds they have and what has motivated them to get into music. And as we know, life is not a direct one-way street. It goes this way and that way and so on. It is a sum of very different experiences. And for a child to be on stage, having to be challenged, to be on movie, having to repeat these scenes 10 or 11 times, it is a very, very good discipline, and it is a memory for life.
So when you look at that, you remember right away, oh, those 10 different takes, 11 different takes. You don't look at it and say, like I did, thinking, oh, wow, Niels had such a carefree childhood.
I only remember I was very much in love with Florence Henderson.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the mature Niels Muus, who is performing Beethoven at the piano. So Niels, wow. What I'm just struck by that you pick, I mean, to perform in the center of Beethoven world, kind of his most well-known music. This, you know, as many people would probably run away from anything that's Beethoven. They want to play something that nobody knows because they know that everybody knows this and that they're going to judge you. But it seems to be, I mean, since the moment I met you, there is this carefreeness. It's about music. It's about, you know, it's not about what other people think. I mean, it seems really, really wonderful.
No, I think carefree is maybe a right word that you use. I come from a country, and we are little the Scandinavian Neapolitans, and we are maybe a little carefree, and I have a lot of that. And it is, I think, as musicians, we should not be so concerned about what other people think of us. We should do what we think we should do. And I think that's a very important thing. I think too many people are too much concerned with what other people think.
Courageous.
And it's also that you do something that is in the end what's interesting, and not how you try to play it according to this or that, because that has no value. I'm by no means a great pianist, but if you take great pianists from a history, Cotto, Edwin Fischer, Horowitz, and so, they did exactly what they thought they should do. And that's why also we have such a richness of old recordings today.
Inspiring, fantastic. So tell us, Niels, now, I imagine that you studied then piano when you went to the conservatory in Denmark. Then eventually you became a conductor. When did it become clear to you that you would become a conductor? How did you learn to conduct? And where were your first positions?
Well, I made debut as pianist and played everywhere in Denmark and so, and piano concertos and so. But I felt there was something more, and I worked a lot with singers from very early. And of course, that became more and more. And I was really, after I went to study piano in Bologna when I was around 17, 18. And there I lived with a family and they took me always to at that time it was a very famous theater, Teatro Comunale di Bologna. And we saw fantastic opera performances. And from that time, it was actually clear which direction it would go. But of course, how does one start to conduct? It is a mystery, of course. And by accident, I ended up in this. I did what we call the old school, that I worked for singing teachers. I worked in different opera houses as rehearsal pianist. And of course, then comes the day where the telephone calls at 6 o'clock and they say the conductor is sick, and Mr. Muus, you have to go and conduct Donizetti's Anna Bolena tonight, for example.
So where were you during that 6 o'clock call?
I was my first, what we call Festes engagement. That was at the Opera Theater in Münster in Germany. From there, it went quite quick. I was there engaged as a rehearsal pianist. And then my next contract was then in Innsbruck as first Kapellmeister, or first conductor, you would say. And there I had 7 wonderful years before I went to Vienna, to the Volksoper in Vienna, where I was also casting director. And around that period, I started my career in Italy as conductor.
So everything went quite fast. You went to Germany. And then soon you were already the #1 conductor in Innsbruck.
Well, from that on, it went fast, yes. And I always, of course, because of I've been also in the 80s, I've been living in Rome and studying there. I actually went to study in Rome. It's a funny story. I went to study piano in Rome, and all the money I should study for, I was young and stupid, of course. They all this money, they disappeared in 5 seconds in the casino in Monte Carlo at the roulette table. So when I came to Rome, I had no money. So luckily I met a Swedish painter and he said, oh, I know a singing teacher and she needs someone that can play for her students. And that has been my luck that I came into that.
And that when you were in Rome, so this was obviously before or after you were in Bologna. And you had already become an accomplished musician, a performer as a pianist.
Yes.
And so was that your first training really, then working with the singing teacher, like you said?
No, I worked with singing teacher already in Denmark, of course, all the best singing teachers there, and played for many singers. But of course, this being in Rome and being in the middle of this wonderful culture and having to speak Italian, having to live with all these people, and also at that time you still had the glimpse in Rome of La Dolce Vita, and it was a fantastic atmosphere.
And what's the Dolce Vita look like?
Oh, it was this 50s, 60s in Rome, the whole period, you know, with Fellini, with Sophia Loren, with all these very big culture they had in Italy. And at that time in the Italian cities, there was a very, very special feeling. It has unfortunately disappeared a little.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this feeling? It's just a lot of things happening, famous people, everybody talking to each other, or?
Yeah, everything. There was a style, there was beauty in the streets, there was a very soft atmosphere. It was I had to pull my up by my own hair and get away from there, else I would have, ended up there doing nothing. But I got out, and because of that, of these experiences, later when I went to Germany and Austria, and so it was my dream. Of course, also Italian opera was my specialty, and it was my dream also to go back to Italy to conduct. And it is very difficult as a foreigner to enter that market as a conductor. Is when you have a name like me, Niels Muus, that would in Italian translation be something like Niccolo Topo. But the day I actually gave up to have a career in Italy, that day the telephone called with a lot of engagements for me.
Okay, let's see Niels Muus conducting then Donizetti.
Ha forse il cielo mandato espressamente per il mio bene questo miracoloso nel villaggio della scienza sua voglio far saggio. Dottore, perdonate, è ver che possediate segreti portentosi,
sorprendenti. La mia saccoccia e di Pandora il vaso.
Avresti voi per caso la bevanda amorosa della regina Isotta?
Ah, che cosa?
Voglio dire lo stupendo elisir che desta amore.
Ah, sì, capisco, intendo. io ne son distillatore.
Effia vero.
Sì, se ne fa gran consumo in questa età.
Ah, fortuna, e ne vendete
Ogni giorno a tutto il mondo.
e col prezzo ne volete.
O tu assai, o cioè, secondo,
Un zecchin, null'altro qua.
è la somma che ci va.
Ah, prendetelo, dottore, ah, prendetelo, dottore.
Fantastic. So Niels, tell us a little bit about your proudest moment as a conductor. Tell us, what is it exactly that you do as a conductor, and has that changed a lot over the years?
I belong to a generation of conductors. We see ourselves as servants in the opera. Of course, we have to make sure everything is going one direction. We have to make sure that all the singers feel very comfortable. We have to make sure to get the best out of the singers. We also have to cut the operas. So these singers, they can do their utmost and have biggest success. And of course, it's also with what then I do. I give all the outlines of how I want the aesthetics. And I have to convince my people that that is the right thing for a piece. If you see this piece, Elisir d'Amore by Donizetti, of course, it is a complete masterpiece in the opera literature. And it is this especially a performance we did at the Opera Festival in Macerata, open air, of course, was a fantastic experience in my life. With you see two singers, that is Achille Machado and Erwin Schrott, and it was of course a gift to work with such fantastic singing actors also. And we had a wonderful also director, Severio Marconi, a real master, and we had such a wonderful time. And yes, and we didn't realize, we were all very innocent at that time, so we didn't also realize that it was going to be filmed and from Italian television, and it became, of course, a very, very big DVD production in this world, and it is gone into music history, I must say.
Congratulations. Fantastic.
Yeah, luck and carefree.
Let's take a look at
No.
your
I would also say, all conductors are different, and they should be different. Eh? Maybe my big luck is I'm very good to spread joy, happiness, and people feel comfortable, and people will give their utmost. Maybe that is where I see my position.
And that hasn't changed over the years then. I imagine that's been a constant.
I think so. I hope so.
Fantastic. Let's take a look at Niels conducting Aida in Beijing. So I'd, if possible, like to bring in Akiko Nakajima at this point.
No, may I just tell something about this production?
Of course.
Because now we cut the start. It is a very funny thing because it's actually the biggest opera production ever made in world history. And there was on stage 4,000 people. 4,000 people, including elephant, camel, lion, tiger, snakes, birds. And it was an absolutely crazy thing to do. But it was a wonderful experience also.
Niels,
And
how did you got a phone call at 6 p.m. to do that, or that was prepared long in advance and they said there'll be 4,000 people on
it was
stage?
also one of these phone calls from an agency. Niels, can you conduct Aida? Yes, I can. Then you go out to the airport and there's lying a ticket for you to Beijing. It was actually 2003. So it was the middle of that, the first SARS epidemic. So it was a incredible atmosphere there was to come to the airport. And so I had never experienced anything like that. And now, today, I am very often in Beijing. I'm also professor at the Central Academy there now, but it is, of course, a city that has changed 100% since I couldn't recognize anything from that time, where it was still, a little Klondike, gold digger atmosphere, and now it's completely different.
Wow. So, if possible, may I bring in
Yes,
Akiko?
Akiko, she's coming now.
Hello.
Hi, Akiko, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, about myself. I'm a Japanese living in Vienna, teaching at the conservatorium here, which is called the MOOC. We can just shorten it to MOOC. And I am also teaching in Japan. I have my own academy that's called Nora Juku. It's an academy for young singers as well as pianists and conductors. Yeah, I have been singing for 30 years or something like this. And I'm very happy to be living in Vienna, and in this capital of music, it is always something happen. Okay, at the moment we have Corona, but still there are always the new challenges in this period also, as we are now responsible for the younger generations. We must encourage hopes and keep going, keep studying, keep creating music. And so that's what I do nowadays.
Akiko, I believe that it's because you came into contact with Niels Muus that your career began in Europe. Is that right? Can you tell us about how you met Niels and how that all happened?
Yes, well, he's not the reason why I came to Europe, but fate was so that I won Australian singing competition in Sydney, where I was brought up and I was educated there. And with this scholarship money, I had to go abroad, and I was waiting for this great chance. I have never been to Europe, and I was lucky to be working with Christopher Hogwood. I did a concert tour there in Europe and in Japan as well, and I had some competitions that I attended in Holland. This very famous one, it's called Sertogenbosch competition. And through such just one at a time sort of things that I have done in Europe, I got to go to Innsbruck, where I met Niels. And I did an audition. He was a casting director, and I was engaged as a fest engagée, so ensemble singer, along with other engagements that I just by chance I received around that time when I started.
So let's take a look at you in a principal role and Niels conducting.
Okay.
Right from that time. Fantastic. So, Akiko, I understand that this was a very important very important performance, and
Yeah.
that kind of this was a very important moment in your career too, and that so I'd like to ask you, tell us about, I believe this is one of the first times that you worked with Niels. What is his conducting like? What is he like as a conductor?
Well, as a conductor, well, let me start, because before conducting, he would coach singers. There are many conductors who would conduct performances and leave the rehearsing preparation for the performances to others. But Niels is not like that. He loves singing, obviously. I suppose that's why he does it. When we were engaged in these times, that was in 1992, we started this new ensemble in Innsbruck. He took all the singers and he trained all of us. And I was from Australia. I had no German. I did not have any. I could sing Lieder. That's what you do in the conservatoriums when you're in bachelor. But I never could speak German. And you can see this, well, I don't know if you could hear it, it was sung in German. And Donizetti's Regimentstochter, it has dialogues in German. So it was like, for me, when they suggested, they did not tell me, they suggested that I perhaps sing this role in the first season. And I said, wait a minute, Regimentstochter, that is so huge. For a beginner like me, I was not confident that I could do it. And then Niels, smiling, very friendly, he says, don't worry, we will do it together. We will work together. You'll have a specialist working on your dialogue in German, and we will do the song, arias and ensemble things all together. Take it easy. And I looked at it and I said, give me two weeks to think about it, because it's, so far I've done only small Mozart part and so. But then I felt, if someone is so confident, who's an expert in voices, I thought, I'll give it a go. And we really worked every day. So it was, as a coach, he'd work on the bel canto style, and I would have a German coach, and we were working on how to make this German language possible with Donizetti music, which is quite special. He was really taking patience and time for me. And then he would start conducting with orchestra, but he knew how I would make the phrases. He knew I need sometimes a little more space, or because I'm moving so much in this, there are a lot of dance scenes and you have to move a lot and you can't see the conductor sometimes, but I could feel he's always there. I don't have to look at him. I could feel that he was really there for singers. And so as a conductor, he's a dream, I must say.
Wow. So normally when I believe you ask, okay, what's a conductor? What makes a good conductor? Can you teach me to conduct? Most people say, no, it's impossible. And I think you've given a very persuasive argument why that's the case, because it's something that is so, encompasses so many things, and it has to,
Yes.
That's really impressive. Wow. So let's take a look at a video of Akiko singing Mozart and Niels conducting.
This is
Fantastic. So, Niels, I have, funny enough, the next question here is why?
No, I must say something, people,
Please.
if you don't mind. This piece you just it also has a very interesting story. We found it in the Polish monastery Jasna Góra, which is a very important place, historic place in Poland, and very emotional place for all Polish Catholics and for the Polish nation. And they have had a music school there since 1620, and they have written down, of course, copied hand. And in the collection they had Mozart, and this aria was lying in the Mozart collection. It probably is not Mozart, but I think it's a wonderful story and it's a wonderful piece. And well, we shall see.
I forgot all about it. Gosh, I haven't seen that for so long.
So, Simon,
Yes, Neil. So my next question that I had written down is why you would dedicate the past 10 years, I believe it is, to teaching younger students in a conservatory setting to sing. But after all of what Akiko just told us, it's quite clear that you are just continuing the same thing, which is to work with singers and to get the best out of the musicians in service of the music. Is that why you decided to work with conservatory students?
I come out of an academical family. With my father was a professor, and so, and I also felt it was a part of my life that was not fulfilled. And at that time, I felt my life has been so wonderful with so many experiences and so wonderful encounters, and so that I also wanted to give it on to the next generation. And I didn't start in the university immediately. I was working 1 year in Oberlin College. That's the Americans, of course, know, a wonderful place also. I have done some courses here, I've done some master classes. We did also down in Fort Mason, California, Opera Academy some summers. And then I took this job here that I'm doing now. And it was, with my experience, my wish to build a first-class opera studio here in Vienna. And I have been there now 8 years, and I must say, now we have a yearly collaboration with the Vienna Philharmonic, with a Mozart opera production. And it is, what we have here is international students. That means they come from the whole world. And of course, it is a big joy to have all these young people around you. It is a big, big gift of life. And I also want to say conducting has nothing to do with swinging your arms. It is a conductor is his whole life also a kind of a teacher. And in that sense, I don't feel any difference at all. But it is a wonderful position to be in. We hope we can give as much and maybe help the young singers on their first steps in their careers and their lives, and give them also a joy of life and a joy of music. And for Akiko, it's exactly the same. And as I mentioned also, I'm also divided because I'm also a music director and professor at the Central Academy of Drama in Beijing. And of course, there's a lot to do there also to teach these young, very talented Chinese students style and our tradition. And it's hard for me to understand how I have been so lucky in my life being allowed to do that.
Okay, let's take a look quickly at a video of Niels conducting Stravinsky with some of his students.
Let us proceed at once. Lots 1 and 2, which cover all objects subsumed under categories animal, vegetable, and mineral.
Fantastic. Wow. How impressive with your students.
Yes, it's a very difficult auction scene from Stravinsky's The Rake's Progress. That is also a wonderful piece. And I was very happy that it was possible for us to do that piece. It's some years ago already now.
So can I introduce now Riza Matsushima?
Yes.
She is a student of both Niels and Akiko at the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna. Hi Riza.
Hello.
Riza, can you tell us what have Niels and Akiko, what have they contributed to your education?
Yeah. I think he.
Deutsch.
Okay.
No.
Yes. Feel free to speak in German. Sure.
Yeah. I think he has a multi-faced approach to voice and acting, also ensemble. And I think the opera world today is very academic and homogenized.
Homogeneous.
Yeah, and he's very constantly questioning about this situation, because today many singers have lost their style of music and ensemble skills. So I'm very happy with two of these amazing people to study opera, because he is teaching us wonderful music experience and joy and very high level ensemble skills with orchestra and the other singers and with conductors.
Fantastic. So let's take a look at Riza's.
May I say, this is an excerpt from Don Giovanni. It is from the yearly production we are doing in collaboration with the Vienna Philharmonic. It's a young players, the Academy of the Vienna Philharmonic. And of course, it's a wonderful orchestra also, but you can see for yourself.
Wow. So, and it should be noted that this production was done at the middle of the one of the COVID pandemic's waves last, I believe 1 year ago, last
Yes,
January. What a heroic feat. And as we see Niels, he's even not conducting there. He's teaching another conductor how to do an excellent job of a production.
No, of course, it is a wonderful situation, and we have come to a point where we have all these very first-class young singers here, and of course also Mozart's operas were written for young singers like this, and we were also very lucky that it was filmed for Austrian television, the whole production, and that's as far as we have come now. It was very important for me to have how to say that we could offer our students in Austria something equivalent to the best opera programs in the world. And with this program, we have the Mozart operas. I think we really have reached that point. And I think that's very important that Vienna, not only our universities, but also the other university in Vienna, we also are very inclusive towards other universities in Austria, that we really, we have a big duty, and we also have a big joy to really to work hard and show the world this tradition.
Extraordinary. So this leads us to our last question of tonight. Of course, we will want very much to have Niels Muus come back and tell us more with Risa and with Akiko. For tonight, then, the last question is, Niels, you've conducted orchestras all over the world. You've formed singers, professional students at the best conservatories. What's left now to be done? What's the future look like to you?
The future is that Risa and Akiko are going to cook a wonderful meal, and we are going to have a very nice time after this wonderful program.
Fantastic.
No, he must move on and continue this tradition of opera. This cannot be done in one day. The tradition must be continued. And what we have learned in his time, my time, and so this must be carried on to the next generation and then the next generation. Because if we don't, in this very fast speed that we have today, communication is very easy, and it is, you don't need to see a person. And so, especially because of this, we need to have this wonderful performance where we sit down and take time and enjoy this incredible music that we have. I think there is nothing more greater than opera.
We are often being asked, why do we do this? And then you can all say, well, opera, it's a little ridiculous, it's a little old-fashioned, and maybe we shouldn't do it at all. But then again, we come to the point, imagine a world without Don Giovanni. Imagine a world without Traviata, without La Bohème, etc., etc. And that would be a very, very poor world.
Okay, let's close then by hearing a recording of Niels and Akiko.
Falling leaf and fading tree, lines of white in a sullen sea, shadows rising on you and me, shadows rising on you and me. The swallows are making them ready to fly, wheeling out on a windy sky.
listen and learn. It seems to say all that tomorrows shall be as today. All that tomorrow shall be as today. The cord is frayed, the cruise is dry, the link must break, and the lamp must die. Goodbye to hope, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye to hope, goodbye, goodbye. What are we waiting for? On my heart, kiss me straight on the brows, and but again, again, my heart, what are we waiting for, you and I? A bleeding look, a stifled cry, goodbye forever, goodbye forever, goodbye.
Fantastic. So let's see how we can stay in touch with Niels. We have his website here. It is nielsmuus.com, which is easy to remember enough. There it is, nielsmuus.com. So Niels, can people reach out to you here?
Yes, of course we can. They can, yes.
So
Yes.
they write to Melissa Bookman, or they use a contact form?
Contact form is the securest way, so that
Okay.
it doesn't get into the, the bin.
Understood. Okay, so anybody can reach out to Niels just by filling out the contact form.
Yep.
Again,
Yep.
the website is nielsmuus.com. So thank you very, very much, Niels, for such a great show. Thank you very much, Akiko, and
Thank you.
thank you very much, Riza.
Ciao,
And
everyone. Thank you.
so I also would like to give a special thanks to Niels for what he's done for me for this show. From the moment we talked about how he's been opening the doors and helping singers to improve. The same is also my story with Niels. I met him and right away he said, "Oh, you've got a show? I want to help. I want to know about it." And he's been for me there every step of the way. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much, Niels. So let's take a look at what is coming up next week. We have next Wednesday, Alex Hirsch and Brian Hong, Nexus Chamber Music. Classical music videos, social media string quartets, cellist Alexander Hirsch and violinist Brian Hong are at the forefront of a new generation of virtuoso classical musicians, applying what might soon be called the quote-unquote internet of music to bring their extraordinary artistry to those not yet acquainted with the classical music world. How have their efforts been received by the concert-going public, and have they earned the support or even the derision of their older colleagues? But those who don't take younger generations' dreams seriously, beware. Quote, "For man is a giddy thing, and this is my conclusion," end quote. declares Shakespeare's eternal bachelor character, Benedict, as he happily marries Beatrice. Come welcome Alexander and Brian to our show. Again, that is next Wednesday, Alex Hirsch and Brian Hong, Nexus Chamber Music. As always, all information about upcoming shows may be found at www.cinemora.com. Again, thank you to Niels Muus. Thank you very much to Akiko Nakajima and to Riza Matsushima. And also thank you to Agnieszka Rivole for her support of this show. And most of all, you, our participants who make it all worthwhile. From Vienna, Austria, goodbye and see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.